I wasn't shocked when you guys gave up the First Amendment, and I wasn't shocked when you gave up the Fourth Amendment and the 10th Amendment and the 14th Amendment at Trump's behest. But the second... Come on, guys. Guns are your whole personality. Guns are your Zoom backgrounds, your decorative lapel pins. Guns are how you show displeasure at documents. Guns are your Christmas cards. There's no human activity that can't be made better without the pulsing heat of your Armalite best friends.
Of course, in Texas, we cook bacon a little differently than most folks. Machine gun bacon.
Good morning, and welcome to Morning Joe.
Saw that one.
Yeah, I didn't see that one coming. It is Tuesday, January 27th. We have a lot to cover.
And that's a lot.
Yeah, that is a lot. As the fallout continues this morning from Saturday's deadly shooting in Minneapolis, the Trump administration is making a major move, putting border czar Tom Homan in charge of the operations there. This comes after Border Patrol Commander Greg Bovino falsely accused Alex Preddy of trying to massacre law enforcement. Meanwhile, a growing number of Republicans are calling for an independent and transparent investigation into the shooting, including lawmakers from deep red states. And on Capitol Hill, both parties are digging in amid a fight over money for DHS and a package to fund the government. The question is, can lawmakers come to a compromise before Friday's deadline? Along with Joe, Willie, and me, we have the co-host of our 9 a.m. hour, staff writer at The Atlantic, Jonathan Lemire, and White House correspondent for Bloomberg, Jeff Mason, is with us.
Yeah, and you know, Willie, so much happening over this weekend. Of course, the tragic shooting on Saturday, the increased calls for ICE to either tamp down its operations in Minneapolis or leave Minneapolis. And then yesterday, mid-morning, I think it was, the president and Tim Walz and also the mayor of Minneapolis actually reaching out, talking, and having conciliatory words on and tamping down a situation that had grown wildly out of control because of, you just have to say it, because of Kristi Noem and Bovino and the way they ran ICE.
Yeah, I mean, no question about it. There's now some acknowledgement that the president sees how bad this is, not just for the people of Minneapolis, for the country, but for himself, which is kind of where this story always ends. He sees that the American people have turned against him and his administration on that. But you're right. Apparently, we're hearing reports that he met directly with Kristi Noem and Corey Lewandowski yesterday into the night to talk about this, perhaps Kristi Noem's job on the line, as Greg Bovino has been now moved out of Minneapolis. He's going back to the border in California to be a Border Patrol agent, which is what he's been doing for most of his career. So you're seeing some of the pieces move around. Tom Homan come in. I know people have feelings about Tom Homan and the policies he's enforced over the last several months. But let's remember, he is the one after the shooting death of Renee Good, the only one who said, let's have an investigation. Let's see what comes out. Let's not call her a domestic terrorist within the first 5 minutes. So hopefully for the country, hopefully for Minneapolis, things have cooled down. It's just a shame that it took the shooting deaths of 2 protesters to get us to this place.
It really is. And the president saying yesterday that Tom Homan, who, by the way, had warned Jacob Soboroff, Jacob ran the clip this weekend, had warned Jacob Soboroff that there were people that, if this continued, there were people that were going to be killed, warned about that months ago. He had been sidelined. But Mika, the president saying that Homan's job's not just to run operations in Minneapolis for however much longer it is, but to sit down and work with Minnesota leaders so they can coordinate together.
So as Willie said,
We'll see.
top Border Patrol official Gregory Bovino is expected to be removed from commanding the operation in Minnesota as early as today. That's according to two officials briefed on the matter who tell MS Now there will also be a reduction of federal officers and agents in the state, although the size and scope of that reduction remains unclear. This comes just days after Bovino rushed to judgment following the fatal shooting of ICU nurse Alex Preddy, claiming without evidence that the victim intended to massacre law enforcement officials. An additional source tells MS Now that Bovino will be removed from his role as Border Patrol Commander at Large and will return to his sector in El Centro, California. The Department of Homeland Security, however, is pushing back, claiming he has not been relieved of his duties and is a key part of the team.
Well, they lie repeatedly, so we just don't know if they're lying here or not.
But with Bovino's expected exit from Minneapolis...
I mean, can we just stop there and just talk about how that is a huge part of the problem? I know we're going to move on and talk about Tom Homan, but let's not stop there quite yet, because I will say, John Lemire, the repeated lies, and you know, people use Orwellian. You know, there's a hard hit to center field. Oh, that's Orwellian. It was a Texas. You know, they overuse the word. Here, Orwellian fit, because time and time again, you would see video of Americans being beaten or, in two cases, gunned down in the streets. And DHS, their spokespeople, and especially Kristi Noem, going back to Renee Good, lying through her teeth with her cowboy hat on, talking about snowbanks, just making shit up about dead Americans gunned down in the street. Dead Americans gunned down in the street. The first, remember, Renee Good saying, "I'm not mad." The last words spoken on earth to the man that shot her twice at point blank range, putting a bullet through her head. "I'm not mad." And then she turns and tries to leave. They lie about her, and immediately Kristi Noem, without knowing any of the facts, lies through her teeth. It happened again here with Alex Preddy. The same exact thing happened. DHS lying through their teeth. And I'm curious, I know so much played in to just the torrent of Republicans finally having the courage to stand up and speak out, and all of this happening. But it seems to me a lot of people kept going back to all the lies that Kristi Noem has been telling over and over and over again, as almost along with these American citizens being gunned down in the street. It's the lies that seem to really have gotten a lot of these Republicans saying, no, what she's saying here is a lie. What she said about Renee Good, all lies. What she said about Alex Preddy, all lies. They lied through their teeth. And I'm just wondering if at the end of the day, that's not one of the things that really made Republicans say, we just can't do this anymore. They're lying to the American people. They're lying to our constituents. DHS is lying nonstop.
Yeah, lies from Secretary Noem, from DHS staff, from, over the weekend, Stephen Miller, suggesting that Mr. Preddy was an assassin intent to kill federal agents. A lie, mind you, on social media that was then amplified by the Vice President of the United States. And there were Republicans who were uneasy about some of the lies they heard about the Renee Good killing. But this one was different over this weekend. We heard almost immediately the framing that the DHS and the administration was putting out about what happened in Minneapolis just simply didn't match the videos that the whole world saw from so many different angles, from, frankly, those brave protesters in Minneapolis who were willing to, as it turned out, risk their lives to record what was happening there. The facts, the videos and the facts simply didn't line up with what the federal government was telling us. So there was indeed some real anger. And that's what I'm told over the weekend and then yesterday as well, that some of these Republicans went to the White House and said, look, we don't like how this is being discussed. An investigation is needed here. You can't just dismiss this. Obviously about the NRA part as well, saying that, the fact that he had a gun and brought it to a protest, well, he kind of deserved it. I mean, none of that sat well with Republicans. That added to the pressure. And indeed, we saw Bovino being moved out. The Atlantic going into reporting that even he's soon to retire, Willie. And then we had Secretary Noem and Corey Lewandowski in this meeting at the White House yesterday. Stephen Miller, not part of it, interestingly enough. And we're told that their job's safe for now, but it's very clear there's at least a little bit of a de-escalation from Minnesota as the president and his team see poll numbers and realize this is not going well for them.